And hello, everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. Happy Friday. This is your host, Coach Elex, and I hope with me, my co host. Uh, Clearly, he's not with me, so I have no idea where my co host is. But my co host, which hopefully at some point will show up, it's Steven the Medium. He happens to be my wonderful, handsome husband, an attorney, and also a medium. And today we are having an amazing show with an amazing guest. I actually think I met Diane Darlin many years ago. I think we're talking 15, possibly 15 years ago. But I'll wait to chat about that with her. And today we're going to talk about effective networking strategies, how to craft your future. And oftentimes, we talk about networking strategies and we think of, networking as a business thing, but I think it's more than just a business strategy. It's networking. I think it's important for anyone, whether, you are, somebody who is, in the business or a leader or somebody who's at home trying to enhance what you do, trying to do different things and meet different people. I think networking is an important thing for all of us
Hello,
to do. Oh, and he's here.
I'm here.
What happened?
I don't know. My laptop was just taking forever, and but Steven is here.
Steven the medium is here. We're gonna have to do something about this, Steven, because I was very concerned that you were having technical audio issues again.
I was.
Well, I know. So, but Steven, I just talked about, the show, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of the show, what's going on with you?
Oh, just this and that. You know, just
Mhm.
yeah, just a lot. Always stuff going on.
Yeah,
Things
but
that are in the works. I am going to be on October 31st, Halloween, going to be at Water's Edge Cinema, which I haven't even advertised yet, which is going to be such a great event. So we were at Water's Edge, Elix, about what, a month ago, a month and a half
yes.
ago, and we got to
Where,
meet
where,
the.
tell people where Water's Edge is.
Yeah, I was going to in P Town on Commercial Street, and we were there and met the owner when I was introducing the documentary Lady of the Dunes, which I appear in, and then I did a Q&A afterwards, which was really great. So we've been in sort of discussion about doing a private event, and it's going to be a phenomenal event, phenomenal October 31st. So it's going to start at 6 o'clock. I'm going to do readings and probably about an hour and a half, and then they're going to play a fantastic Halloween movie that they asked me what was my favorite Halloween movie, and I told them, and Shazam, they got it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really
And
exciting.
and I mean, we don't want to tell them what it is, but
No.
we do want to say that there's a sequel coming up very soon. So this would be a perfect opportunity to watch this movie again,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes. Yes.
and we have something really awesome happening Sunday, right?
We
Want to tell
do.
people? Yeah, I think it's really exciting. To want to tell people what we're up to.
Yeah. So we're going to have some people over, just to chit chat and help us with some cooking events, and then sit down to eat, and for me to do a reading. So a couple of weeks ago, we posted this on social media that we wanted to do this event, that we selected 2 to 3 people to come to our house and have a recipe that was connected to someone that they've lost, like mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, and maybe incorporate that into what Elix is going to cook. And the great thing is not only just seeing ingredients and what we are going to cook, but just being able to have a nice discussion about that connection of the memories and what that, food is just everything to people, and it brings people together and families together and friends together. So I think it's going to be really great. And then when that's done, we're just going to move over to the dining room and sit down, and I am going to do what I do and read
I
people.
think it's absolutely awesome, and we got a lot of people who expressed their interest and
Yeah.
submitted their their entry, and I think we picked a family that is going to be perfect for this. But if we didn't pick you, and there's still plenty of opportunity because this is something that we're going to do again. It's really part of the Steelix series. If you haven't seen our series before, you want to log into or subscribe to Stephen the Medium's YouTube channel and take a look at Steelix. Steelix is really a behind the scenes of what happens with Stephen, a medium, an attorney, a medium, and me, a Puerto Rican who happens to be a life coach, and what happens behind the scenes. And I think it's
And a
really
gourmet
cool.
chef.
And a good, well, I'm not sure I would call myself a gourmet chef,
Well,
but
you're the only one that wouldn't. Just
I
saying.
love the kitchen, and and the one thing for sure is when we are together, and we invite you into our space, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna have fun, and you're gonna be inspired. And I think this is our goal, right? To
Yes.
do all of the above. So, stay tuned because obviously we're gonna record it, and we'll share with you that what happens, later at some point. So, and then the other thing, Stephen, that last week I talked about celebrating my mom's 97th birthday. So my mom turned 97 last Friday, and we sang happy birthday, and we took her out, and we did actually something really really awesome, very special. We did the Cape Cod dinner train, and that was awesome, Stephen. I don't know. I mean, how did you like the experience?
Yeah, I loved it. We hadn't done something like that, and we've never done the Cape Cod one, but we did it in Newport, but many many years ago with my mom and my aunt, and that was really really great. I mean, you listen, if you combine dinner, sitting down for dinner, and you're riding in a train and get to see a view, and it's always a beautiful view. Newport as well as Cape Cod was extraordinary. I think Cape Cod was better, but in any case, it was a great day. It really
It,
was.
it really was, and my mom at 97, she enjoyed it thoroughly, and at some point turned to us and said, "This is the best birthday I've ever had." What was that? A dream come
A
true?
dream come
Something,
true.
a
Yeah.
dream come true, something like that. But to be honest with you, like you said, I mean, one of the highlights, we've always wanted to go over the railroad bridge, you know, uh, on the canal when they lower the bridge and the train goes over, and we had an opportunity to do that while dining in this beautiful train. And again, I really thought the experience was one of a kind experience. So very,
I
very.
never mapped out where that train went, and I know on Saturdays, if you do this, it's a great day to do it. It's a Saturday because one of the conductors or someone who works on the train told Elix, right, that Saturdays it's a little bit longer. Who knew that this was going to go down the canal that extent and cross over that railroad bridge? Now, I run all the time on the canal, so I've seen that bridge go down plenty of times. I've even videoed it because it's just so cool. It's the second largest railroad bridge in the world, and but going over it is a completely different experience.
Oh, it's just one of an experience of a lifetime. I absolutely loved it, and I know my mom loved it, and it was just awesome. And again, we awesome to celebrate her 97th birthday. So, and she really is in good health. 1, 2, 3. For 97 years old, she's super independent and super, um, you know, outgoing, and she likes to do stuff and keep herself very busy. So we're very, very. I'm very blessed.
Well, we got to
For
sing
sure.
"Happy Birthday" on the train, which everybody in our car, was included, and they all sang.
Yeah.
And then the
Yes.
next day, we went to Wright's Chicken Farm, which we love, and same thing. We snuck in a cake that she didn't know about, and the girls sang also "Happy Birthday." So
Yeah. It was really really awesome. So anyway, so let's see what else. So today, actually, you know what? I want to take a little moment because I wanted to sort of introduce my guest today. Before the break, today we're going to be talking about effective networking strategies and really how to craft your future. And we have Diane Darling and Stephen. I've been thinking about it. We've met Diane, I believe, at an Easter Seals event many years ago in Boston.
I heard
And
you say that. Well, you couldn't hear me, but I was listening to the show, and I heard you say that.
yes, so I'm pretty sure that's who she is. But something really interesting about Diane, to overcome her fear of public speaking, she took acting and stand-up comedy classes. And that out of the box and strategic mindset have really been a contributing factor in her success. And that she was also a commencement speaker at an MIT charm school, and I never knew that there is such a thing. So I'm curious to find out more about what that is. McGrath Hill commissioned Diane to write the definite uh, book on networking called The Networking Survival Guide, which was published in April of 2013, went into second printing just 90 days after the book hit the shelves, and her books are collectively in 9 languages. That's quite an accomplishment. Now, something really interesting about Diane, if you are on LinkedIn, which I am, I know you are, I think you are too, Stephen. She was the 15,418th subscriber on LinkedIn. How did she figure that out? I don't know. I'm curious. I'm going to ask her. LinkedIn, just for a reference point of view, LinkedIn right now has 700, million subscribers. So clearly Diane was one of the very first people that subscribed into LinkedIn. Her travels include all 7 continents and approximately 60 countries. She's lived in the Philippines, Thailand, Colorado, Indiana, Washington, D.C., Alabama, and now Boston, Massachusetts. She's a member of the Chief Executive Club of Boston, is a past president of the Association for Talent Development in Boston, and a founding member of the 2020 Women on Board. So her hobbies also include a whole bunch of things: traveling, watching football, reading, knitting, learning new technologies, and attempting to play tennis and camping in Maine. I don't know when she gets time to do all of that, but I'm going to find out. So I think, having said that, Stephen, we are going to learn a whole lot about effective networking strategies. But first, I think it's time to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Diane Darling. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my wonderful, very handsome co host,
Stephen Frederick is here.
Stephen the Medium, who also is an attorney and a medium. And together we are Steelix. So you got us for the next hour. And today we are talking about effective networking strategies. And I have an amazing guest, Diane Darlin. Now, effective networking is more than handling out business cards, having a LinkedIn profile, and hoping the phone rings. Whether you're looking to connect within your organization, your industry, or you're looking to get on boards, knowing who to contact and having them return your call is essential. And I got somebody who knows a little bit about networking. Hi, Diane, and welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, I am so honored to be here, Elix. It's such a treat to, connect with you.
It is for me as well. First and foremost, Diane, I said to Stephen, I believe we met you. And I believe it was years ago, at least I'm going to say 15 years ago, at an Easter Seals event at the MIT building in Boston.
I think you're right.
I think so too. And I was fascinated then and even more fascinated today that you get to be part of the show. But honestly, I'm going to start with something crazy because during the break, Steven, of course, says to me, "Oh my God, the only people that have gone to charm school are Lucy and Ethel." Stephen,
Of course, and I love Lucy.
Do you want to talk about this with Diane? Because I need to know what charm school is. I never.
Yeah, well,
heard of it.
Diane, hi, it's Stephen, and it's so great to have you. And I know there's so much more to talk about what you've done, what you're doing. But when Elix said the credentials and was going through charm school, I never hear about charm school, and my first memory was Lucy and Ethel go to charm school and they transform. But tell us about charm school.
So MIT launched a charm school by a professor who sadly has since passed away, and he was so frustrated hearing that the MIT students didn't have people skills. They didn't have, the tactical, practical skills of dealing with issues, and they're so blessed. I mean, frankly, I say to people, if you're an MIT rocket scientist, it's unlikely I can be taught what you know. The reverse is true. I can teach you what I know. So I can teach a rocket scientist, an engineer who's going to create the next Tesla or whatever else it is, how to walk into a room and start a conversation, how to remember names, how to introduce yourself. I'm dyslexic, and I have something called a dyslexic introduction. And people who are parents get this right away. You have no name if you're a parent. My mother was not Ann Darling. She was Diane's mom.
Wow.
So part of what I do is I share with people practical, tactical things. And so I had read about this, and I just, on a lark, reached out to them and said, I'd love to be a speaker. And the next thing I know, I'm the commencement speaker at MIT Charm School. And they had, one thing was dating for dummies. Another one was how to tell your roommate something they don't want to hear. And, when I talk to people on the sideline, it's like, yeah, the food in the refrigerator is not a part of your biology experience. You got to throw it out.
Oh, that is so awesome. Now, Diane, you have a very interesting journey, but share with us, how did you get started and why the focus on networking?
I got started because shortly after I was starting a business called Lost and Found in 2001. And I was convinced this business was going to obviously be the greatest thing in the world, like everybody does. And so I was going to work with airlines and hotels to manage their Lost and Found inventory. Sadly, that fall, September 11th happens. And someone saw me at an event, and they said, could you ever do a workshop about networking? And I'll be truthful with you, I was a bit insulted because I thought networking was like the Rodney Dangerfield, I don't get any respect craft. Here's a business card, call me or I'll call you, kind of with a threat type of a thing. And I said, why do you think I'm a good networker? And they said, well, you connect Elix to Stephen when you hear they have something in common. And then you connect this person, I'm currently right now dog sitting in a lovely home up in the North Shore, and that was got to me because somebody in the neighborhood heard this woman was looking for a dog sitter, and their person has moved away. Please let me contact you to Diane. So I'm like, that's great. So that is networking. The other thing I'll share with you that a lot of people underestimate is the networking that takes place within an organization. And right
Mm,
now, a lot of CEOs are saying, my people don't want to come back. And I'm like, they don't want to come back because they don't have any friends at work.
mm. Oh my God,
They,
that's so insightful, Diane. Yeah, go
you
ahead.
really need to pay attention to the internal networking.
I would say that also applies because I know that when we talk about networking, networking is often seen as a business tool, but I feel that it's more than that. It's really important outside of business, and I think you just hit the nail on the head as it relates to that. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. I mean, it's how I got my dog sitting gig. You know, it's how I get jobs. It's how I get. I one time I was at an airport many years ago, and my dad was not well, and I was at the airport, and I was ashen, and I said to the woman next to me, can you watch my bag for a second? I need some water." And she says, "You sit right there. I'm going to get you water." She came back, and I just burst into tears. Started telling the story, and she said, "You know what? I think I know a doctor here who can help your dad." Total stranger.
Wow.
Total stranger. During the lockdown, when I would go out for a walk in downtown Boston, I would wave at everybody and verbally say hi because they couldn't see my smile. I mean, and I'm from a small town in Indiana, so there weren't a lot of people on the street. I think we can tell as grown-ups who's a dangerous person. The reason we don't want to say hi is because our parents said don't talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's grow up and say, you know what? I bet that person on the street is just walking by. I'll just say hi. And I would simply say hi and wave. And people would be at first during the lockdown kind of a little bit startled, but we're 6 feet away.
Mm. Now,
So
now,
let's say hi at work.
I get that. Now, why do you think? I mean, often people they think about networking and they immediately get petrified, right? Fear takes over. I don't want to make that phone call. I don't want to go to that event. Why do you think we are so scared or feel so uncomfortable about networking? And what do you think we could do to overcome that?
Because we have this little evil person who lives in our head who tells us that we're a bad person. They say, "Oh, you're not going to get the sale." Or the person's going to say, "Gee, Elix, why did you call me? I don't want to talk to you." That's not true. And Elix, if you ever say that to me, I'm like, "Dude, you're having a bad day another time." So we have this conversation in our head that's negative. And I have that on one shoulder, and on the other shoulder, it's like, make the call. See what he says. Like, who knows? And so we have this conversation back and forth. You'll see this about 4 or 5-year-old kids. They really don't have fear, and then they learn rejection. So
Mm.
we need to go back to our inner 4-year-old. One time I was on a plane, and this little one looked at me over the seat and says, "I'm 4. How old are you?"
Oh my
No
God.
fear. If if
No
if
fear.
I'm if if someone looks over the seat and says, "I'm 54. How old are you?" I'm going to be like, "Flight attendant, move me."
And that's such a really good point because I often have to remind myself when I hear that gremlin in the background. So what? What's the worst that could happen, right? So you get a no or you get a rejection. So what? So what? I
So an
mean,
exercise I offer people is to go into a neighborhood where you don't typically do your grocery shopping. And if fear and rejection is something that is a frustrating or a concern for you, go to a neighborhood where you don't grocery shop. Go get a box of saltines and a can of soup. Go to the front of the line and say, "I'm trying to help somebody who's sick. Could I please cut in front of you so I can get the crackers and soup to my friend?" I've
man,
I've I've said this for 10, 15 years. No one has ever, and I said, "Call me if you get a rejection."
nobody
No
would
one's
ever
ever
say
called
no.
me. No
Yeah.
one's ever going to say no. That also points out one thing that's important, though, is often strangers or our outer circles are going to be very helpful. We often think it needs to be our best friend. We often think it needs to be somebody who is in our tight inner circle. I'm not saying don't talk to them. And in fact, some cases, I one time asked 4 attorneys who were telling me that they're going to the Red Sox, and I said, "So what do you guys do? What kind of law do you do?" And they're like, "I don't know. We just always talk about the Red Sox." I'm like, "Well, why don't you find out over a beer? Are all of you divorce attorneys? Because if not, maybe you're going to need one." But
Wow.
find out what people do. Now, that's not always the topic you're going to have at church or at synagogue or at the Red Sox game. So think about the time for that conversation, but also appreciate that it's not bad to have that conversation.
Mm. Wow, fascinating, fascinating, Diane. We do have to take a break, but please, please, please stay with us. I have many more questions. I'm sure Stephen has some questions as well. So when we come back, we're gonna continue to get more facts about networking strategies. We'll be right back.
I'm here for you. I'm here.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my wonderful co host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen the Medium is in the house. And today we are talking about effective networking strategies, crafting your future. And I am joined by an expert in networking strategies herself, Diane Darling. Welcome back, Diane.
My pleasure.
Diane, I think Stephen has a question for you. Stephen, go ahead.
Diane, I love when you were just talking about the internal atmosphere in a company and about, my employees don't want to come back and because they're not friends. And I have been just really, really fortunate to have some fantastic jobs that, I was just thinking when you said that my God, it really got to a point in many jobs that I didn't even really care about the work. I just cared about coming to see my friends I worked with, people that I built relationships. But that also made me think about now, how do you combat the technology based environment with younger people that it's sort of there's a part of technology that even removes us even further from networking conversations because it's all text in emails.
You're absolutely right. It's a concern. My suggestion to companies is that they do offsites every so often. And a part of the offsite, and it doesn't have to be, all the time, but I think if you even did these 2 to 4 times a year, it would mean a lot. And you could do regional ones. You could do ones that are cross-functional. When I used to work for a company, we did one camping. We learned a lot about each other while we were camping. Mind you, I was in the travel business, so, we were a pretty hardy group. But, part of what it is that as you're standing in line talking about coffee, you find out that, you both got your braces at the same place, or you both, like to surf, or you both speak a second language. Those are bonding connections, to your point. I used to be a speaker at a company in Ohio that brought me on for their onboarding of all of their people. And a question I would ask is there something you'd like to find out if there's anybody else in the company who can help you out? And one guy was Muslim, and he said, I'm just curious if anybody else prays during the day. It would be just nice to find somebody else who does that. And mind you, we were in rural Ohio, and that likelihood. And there were 2 people in the audience who actually had been reticent to say they were Muslim. Another person was looking to learn a foreign language, and she said, I'd really like to practice that. Another person said she had a 16-year-old who was hanging out with the wrong crowd. She wanted to know if she could get some advice because she was a single mom of a boy. So these are things that, aren't our job, but when we bond with those people, we connect with those people. And what I find, when I turned in my manuscript to McGraw-Hill, I took the train from Boston down to New York, got out. McGraw-Hill is right there at Penn Station. I'm like, where's the balloons? I've had like a baby and a half, And the editor was confused. He said, Diane, most people just mail in their manuscript. I'm like, I just gave birth to a book. I'm not putting my baby in the mail. But what was interesting was after that, when we had some issues to work out with editing and covers and whatnot, because we had a cup of coffee once, we were able to work that through, in my opinion, much easier. Also, when you look at, right now we're getting about 50% of our communication power is through, our words and our tone. We can't see each other, but we're getting about 50. When you take out the verbal part, and you're only typing, you lose so much more. This is why we get into hate mails, emails, texts. It doesn't happen. I mean, Monica Lewinsky has a TED Talk about this. She said people would never say to my face what they type.
Yes, yes.
So I think it doesn't have to be a lot, but it can be a little. And so, and I think, frankly, the men should all get together. The women should get together. The people of different languages. Have some community, but then also figure out how you can have some cross-cut. I'm very white. I, am American, but I spent a chunk of my life in Asia. There's a part of my habit, like I never wear shoes in the house. Every house I go into, even as a guest, I kick off my shoes. Someone said, do you have a problem with your shoe? I'm like, oh no, so sorry. I mean, they kind of thought it was odd. I was walking around their house, in stocking feet.
Now, as a follow-up to perhaps Stephen's question, over the past several years, 2 years plus, we've also been dealing with, a pandemic that's been disruptive, that nobody knew how to deal with. What do you think? Are these challenges related, or are there any other challenges that are related to, the pandemic and as it relates to how we network and how that has the pandemic impacted our ability to network effectively?
Well, I think the pandemic, if you will, gave some breathing room to introverts. And introverts all of a sudden said, oh my gosh, I can go to a Zoom and then I can, frankly, be in bare feet and I don't have to go across town and it's not so much energy. And introvert and extrovert are not, do you like people or dislike people? It's about energy. So an introvert wakes up with a full tank of gas. Life is good. I saw a person, oh my God, I'm a little bit more tired. I saw another person, oh my God, I'm a little bit more tired. Whereas an extrovert wakes up like, oh my God, I need my people. I need to find somebody. And so I think the pandemic gave introverts a little bit of breathing space. All of a sudden, we were all equals on squares on the screen. No square was bigger than the other, unless someone was actually being a speaker, and you could do that, pin type of a thing. But for the most part, you didn't have that. We were very, very equal. You could pop and raise your hand. Good people who are moderators would call on people by the time in the order of which you raise your hand. Whereas if you're all around a room, it's always the talky people who get the attention. So the pandemic gave some space to that. So I think hopefully companies will be able to, I encouraged a couple clients to go ahead and say, why don't you bring the extroverts back for a couple of days by themselves and then send them home, then let the introverts come and kind of like talk to each other because it can be like the librarians, and then begin to bring it all back into a bigger situation. I don't necessarily know we're going to go back to full offices the way we used to have ever again. So I think we're going to have to be creative, and we're also going to have to realize that flexibility for certainly this younger population is very important. Structure as they begin to have families and go through the same things their parents did is going to be something that's important. But there's a lot to be said for this. And people, I think actually this younger population in some cases, they don't resent working at 9 o'clock because they played at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if they took the kids for a swim or whatever else at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or they went for a run, but that means they work on a proposal at 9 o'clock at night, that's fine by them. There's a different mindset about that. And they're not all the same. We can't put them all into one bucket. But I think it takes a lot of leadership to have multiple conversations. It's not a one or done conversation.
Yeah, I get that. Stephen, do you have any questions for Diane?
Yeah, Diane, I also wonder if the reverse is true when you were talking about how it gave some breathing room for introverts with COVID. And sometimes I just wonder, when we went through this pandemic and when we were able to go out and we all had to have masks on, were there some people that maybe the opposite happened, that because they felt a little bit more secure with the mask, that they were more open or more willing to have conversations that sort of maybe opened a door to them that they had never seen before? Maybe someone that maybe physically, hygiene wise, maybe didn't like what their mouth or their teeth looked like, and now it's covered so they can be more open. And it's just one of the things that I think about when what you're doing and talking about networking and how the environment just impacts that, as you talked about with the breathing room for introverts with COVID.
Great
Absolutely.
point.
There was one very, very funny billboard I saw, which was, "This is the perfect time to get braces." Having been that geeky girl in 7th grade with the braces, I can tell you I would have been loving to have a mask on for 2 years. Perfect timing to get braces. What a genius idea for the dentist to put that together. I do think we did feel some safer stuff. I also think at times for extroverts, they felt definitely like they were chomping at the bit. I need my peeps. And which is why in some cases it was important to, they could do their networking. I used to host a lunch thing once a month called a virtual cafe. I joined as a participant at 6:30 in the morning accountability group, where we got up at 6:30 in the morning, Monday to Friday during the lockdown, to get ourselves up, to support each other. And we would say, what are you going to get done today? One thing personally, one thing professionally. And then the next day we would say, did you do it or not? And so I think it's important to, in some cases, maybe revisit some of those things if that's helpful. Find a neighbor to go for a walk, whatever those types of things go. I also think a lot of people have said to me, I used to think I was an extrovert, but I actually kind of like the quiet. And other people said to me, I realized I kind of need to step up my game. And I have something called FFI, which is a friendly, functional introvert, which means you know how to go into the room. You know how to be gracious. I would assume, I never met her, but I would assume the queen, was more on the functional introvert. I would definitely say that was true for Diana. It was true for Johnny Carson. Definitely true for, Ellen DeGeneres. And even Letterman's a social phobic. I mean, he really doesn't like the socialization, the random stuff. Comedians tend to not be extroverts. They like knowing when they're going to get a laugh. They like knowing what they're going to say. Same with actors and actresses. The improv people tend to be a little bit more, comfortable with, although there's a kind of a methodology to improv. So I think it was an interesting time for a lot of people to say, kind of, who am I? And who do I want to be, and where do I want to go? And I have something called the weather report, which is whether or not you join or whether or not you go to a networking event. And, is it raining? Is it friendly? Is it 5 miles away? Is it, are you going to go? I mean, I like you guys. There was no way I was going to drive to Attleboro from the North Shore today. It just, wasn't going to happen. So, we had other options. So part of it is, thinking about, who invites you, who recommends you, how long is the ask? Those are just a lot of things that people can think through to see what makes sense for them to either participate and accept your invitation or not.
Well, that's again so fascinating, and I think information that is very, very useful for all of us. Diane, we do need to take another break, but I'd love for you to stick around because I have a few more questions to ask you. We'll be right back.
Sounds great.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, my wonderful co-host,
Stephen is here.
Stephen the Medium is in the house, and today we're talking about effective networking strategies. And Diane Darling, who is an expert on networking strategies, is joining us today. Welcome back, Diane.
Many thanks.
So, Diane, you wrote a blog article called Jumping from Who to How is Crucial to Networking. So, what do you mean by this, and what are some frequent how mistakes?
One of the frequent how mistakes is trying to get married on the first date.
Not
Too,
recommended.
yeah, I mean, too many people, oh wow, you know, you need this, buy it from me right now. I mean, maybe they need to buy it from you right now if they're hungry or something like that. But in many cases, it's a lot of the businesses I think are not quite like that, and that's sales. That's not networking. So, the how I think is when people need to slow down and realize, it often is a slower situation than we often think, and people confuse sales and networking. How types of things are, how you introduce yourself. If I say, hi, I'm Diane Darling, I get, Darlene, nice to meet you. They're not listening to my name. They don't care about my name. My name doesn't matter anything to them. If I say, I'm taking care of the dog around the corner for the next few days, hello, my name is Diane with a pause, Darling. Or
Mm.
hello, I'm the first speaker on networking. My name is Diane Darling. Or, I'm picking up my niece. She's the one that's blonde and screams, oh, yes, thank you. I can't wait to get rid of that kid, So part of it is, you want to, that's a how. Another how is, does your signature include your phone number so someone can call or text you? Another how is, when you follow up with somebody, when I get someone on the phone, I also kind of do the dyslexic thing on the phone. I'll say, I promised Elix I was going to give you a call. My name is Diane Darling. Is this a good time to catch you? Whereas if I say, hi, it's Diane Darling, I'm like, okay, I think who was that? That name's familiar. I promised Elix mentioned I'd give you a call. Oh, right. If they know I'm expect my call, and now's not the good moment. Another good how is frankly to have a calendar link, so those things don't happen. You schedule a call, you give them your link. My calendar link has saved my brain because it's hard to call people on the fly. You never know. Talk about that negative stuff. There can be a reason why you get a negative response because they're in the middle of something.
Mm.
So, those hows are very important. I think if we say thank you, if we say please, if we open the doors for people, when I attend a networking event, I'm attending a number of them these days at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you have people kind of bleary eyed through you know, I'll just simply say, hey, are you going to such and such event? And you have a little bit of, car, parking lot conversation. And if they're not, then so be it.
Yeah.
They're going to work. What's the big deal? So I sharing things. I share blogs. I share, during the ad for you guys, it's got a book called Wise Gals. I mean, I can't wait to find out about that book. It sounds terrific. My parents were actually worked for the predecessor of the CIA for the Office of Special Programs. So, that resonates with me. I'll share it with other people.
So now, what about Diane? People who see networking as I need to meet as many people as possible. Do you think that that's the right strategy, or it's not the quantity of what, rather the quality of the meeting?
That's somebody who's participating in a contest
Mm.
from an instructor who doesn't know what they're talking about. I don't mean it to be so harsh, but I can go out and meet a lot of people. Felix, I'm single. If I wanted to get married, I could make that happen. I want a quality person to talk to at the end of the day. I don't want to just have someone who's got a beer in a belly and saying, "Hey, babe, where's my next beer?" That just isn't a match for me. So I think you need to pay attention to quality. That
Mm.
matters to me. If you want to have a contest, say, hey, how many business cards can I get? That's fine. When I do executive coaching and, in the beginning, they're like, okay, I got a bunch of business cards. I'm like, great. Who's Steven Frederick? I have no idea. Well, then I'm going to rip up the card. But that's a contact. I'm like, not if you don't remember who he is or what he does.
Wow.
So,
And one other question, because actually you just brought it up. For me, one of my biggest challenges is remembering people's name What's a good strategy to remember people's name when you first meet them?
Slow down. Simply slow down. I asked an Alzheimer's doctor at Mass General, why can't I remember names? I'm horrible with names, Felix. I'm horrible. And he said, what is something that you do really well with? And I said, okay, let me think. And he said, do you have a system? He didn't say that. He said, do you remember where you put your keys? I said, you know what? I've lost my keys probably 4 times in my life because when I come into every apartment I've had for all my whole life, there's a hook that when I come in, the keys go right there. He said, you have a system for your keys. You do not have a system for remembering names. Your head's go. And the times that I lose my keys is when I come in, I've got too much stuff in my hands. I don't put it on the hook. The next thing you know, it's on the counter, or it's in the kitchen, on the bathroom sink because I need to pee or whatever it might be. I've lost my system. So one thing I do is I stop people and I say, I didn't hear your name. And is Stephen, is it Frederick or Friedrich?
Steven.
Frederick.
Frederick, okay. I thought it was Friedrich when I first heard it. So I will stop people, and I'm willing to ask. I asked someone today when I was on a Zoom. It was an international name. I wasn't sure of the pronunciation, and I said, will you please remind me of the pronunciation of your name? Now, Zoom has been very helpful because the names are all there on the boxes. I sometimes say to put people, let's change your names to your favorite ice cream. Now, do you remember people's names? No, you haven't been paying attention. You haven't slowed down.
And Stephen reminds me of that all the time. Stephen Cole said, be present. You're not present. You're just on automatic mode.
And think what that word means. What else, Felix, with the word present, what else is that?
Being in the now, being in the moment, not.
But what do you get at Christmas?
Oh, a gift.
You get a gift. You get when you're present, you are a gift to somebody. And when you think of yourself as a gift, and when you think about what they're sharing with you as a gift to you, you cherish that. You listen to those words. You don't kind of like, oh, who's over their shoulder, who's more important. When they're saying their name, it's a gift.
I
love that. Stephen, any last minute questions for Diane before we complete?
I think this is just fascinating, Diane, what you do, what you brought to the table. And it's maybe because I have a different perspective, because I chat with dead people daily and do readings. But one of the things that I found, which really has allowed me to definitely to put myself more out there, is connecting to spirit. And I remember several years ago, I went to the post office, and Elix called my cell phone like 4 times. Like, how the post office is 5 minutes from the house, and I was gone for 2 hours. And I held the door open for this 80-year-old woman from Germany who had a very thick German accent. And we became besties. I went to her place, and last year she passed away. And I just think when you're just what you're giving people, Diane, is something to if people listen, is to be treasured, because what I got from Irmgard, that was her name, and it was really sad when she passed away. What I got for those several years, and what Elix got from my relationship with her, and then he had a relationship with her, and Elix's mother had a relationship with her, was magical. So I just love what you do and with this networking piece.
Oh, I'm so delighted. One quick story for you. As I was at a conference one time, and I put my bag over my shoulder years ago, and I hit somebody with my bag. You pop it over your shoulder, and I went, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. I turned around. I had hit Dr. Ruth.
Did you knock her down?
Oh, I was terrified. I was going to. I'm 5'3.5", and I looked like, Larry Bird compared to her. I am so sorry. I did not mean to hit you. And she looks at me and she goes, of course you did not mean to hit me. What a great thing. 1. 2, I said, could I ever interview you about your career path? I just think the little I've heard is intriguing. She said, yes, here's my phone number. She rattled it off super fast. How? Have a piece of paper and a pen in your pocket. You cannot open your phone and type your notes that fast. have a piece of paper and a pen in your pocket. Next thing, I followed up. I'm in New York. I meet Dr. Ruth at her office. We go have coffee. And when I'm walking her to her, I said, I'll walk you to your next appointment. She goes, you don't have to. I'm like, no, but I'm happy to. I did the gentleman thing where you walk on the outside of the street, but the taxis are honking their horn, Dr. Ruth, Dr. Ruth. What a gift. I mean, and her message to me was she lived, so she has to use her gifts. All her family was killed. Her entire family was killed. Use your gifts. We each have different gifts. You have different ones than I have. So I would invite your listeners to, if you don't know what your gifts are, do a questionnaire to people and say, what are 5 things I'm good at? I've done this before to people, and they're like, people had no idea that they had gifts that were hidden. So that would be my gift to all of your listeners, is to find out what those are and share them. Don't keep hiding them.
I love that. Find out what your gift is. Diane, how can people find more about you, your work, and how can they connect with you?
The easiest thing is my website, which is my name, Diane Darling, Diane, and then Darling, Darling. You can find me on LinkedIn. If people invite me on LinkedIn, just put a note in there. I get lots of invitations from people who are sometimes more, unique than others. I am on Twitter,
or
not
selling.
so much on Facebook.
But that's wonderful. And our live radio show gets converted into a podcast. So this is gonna be heard again and again and again throughout the world. And I thank you so much for being so generous with your time, with your attention, and really showing up today to really make a difference in all of the people from all over the world who are listening and want to learn more about how to be better at networking strategies. Thank you so much for joining me and Stephen.
My pleasure.
And we've come to the end of the show, Stephen. It is that time. And how can people get a hold of you, Stephen?
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium.
That's simple.
It is that simple. You are that kind of a guy.
That's
simple right. Kind of a guy.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay. And you can follow me at Coach Helix anywhere. And again, if you are not subscribing to YouTube, Stephen the Medium's channel, you got to do that, because I'm inviting you to take a look at our Steelix series. You're gonna love what we got, and we got
on the 4th episode, Helix. Not to interrupt, the 4th episode will be coming out Thursday at, I think it's 8 p.m. We do it.
4th episode Thursday at 8 p.m. and we're working on a magical episode that will be airing very, very soon. So thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back again next week. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Mark.